Welcome to the Migration Summit 2022, organized by the MIT Refugee Action Hub React, Nemal Karam Foundation, Paper Airplanes, and the MIT Abdul Latif Jameel World Education Lab. The Migration Summit is a month-long global convening designed to build bridges between diverse communities of displaced learners, universities, companies, NGOs, governments, social enterprises, philanthropists, researchers, and policymakers around the key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. This year, we are exploring the theme of education and workforce development in displacement through virtual events hosted by participating partners around the world. I'm so excited to introduce today's session on human connections, mentorship, and advising. The relationship with a mentor can be life-changing, whether you are a high-profile professional or a youth facing uncertainty. In this session, we will explore the impact of human connections, the impact that human connections like mentorship and advising can bring, what programs like Global Mentorship Initiative, Nemal, and Journeys to Belonging are doing to support mentor relationships with refugee and displaced youth and adults, and how we can grow and scale mentor programs while maintaining the quality and impact of these human-centered relationships. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator, Britt Spyru, a lawyer and scientist with 20 years of experience in the private practice, government and administration, and consulting. She has lived and worked across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. She leads initiatives for career resilience of diplomatic spouses and SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals. And her key area of expertise is trust behavioral science. Thank you, Britt, for hosting this conversation today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lana. And really welcome to everyone who's come along to enjoy and experience this day with us today. It's a really important topic and one that's very personal to me, having had an opportunity to work with both MIT React and Nemal as a mentor in the past year. So a bit more hands-on experience, as well as a lot of time and experience in mentoring programs over the years. I think this is an incredibly important topic that we're discussing today. I'm so pleased to see such a large group of people online with us and participating. Please continue to drop your name and where you're from and how we're participating in this conversation today. There is a very global outlook that I can see so far, and I'm thrilled that we can all be here together and working. How we're going to structure today is to simply start with each of our speakers introducing who they are and the particular programs that they've been and the perspectives and learning that they've brought on this really important topic. And then at the end, there will be a moderated discussion. So if you do have questions and issues, please pop them into the chat and we will try to get to them as we're going through that conversation and ensure that there's an opportunity to try and answer all of your thoughts on these important issues. So John, I'm going to start with you in this process. You are the CEO of the Global Mentorship Initiative, Rockefeller Foundation digital jobs platform with more than 2,000 students and mentors and others involved in it. We're really keen to learn hear what your learnings are, and please go ahead.
Thanks, Fred. I'm just delighted to be here today and to share GMI's experiences with mentorship. Especially as it relates to refugees and displaced young people. So kind of as you alluded to, Global Mentorship Initiative was created through the Rockefeller Foundation's Digital Jobs Initiative, and starting with the program in Africa to create job opportunities for young people. And we created GMI to address the opportunity gap that exists for underserved students. And what we're doing is we're helping to find these students to find and land their first job through mentorship. So we're a young organization, but in the 2 years since launching GMI, we have grown from just 20 students in South Africa to over 2,000 students now worldwide. And we partner with 30 universities and youth organizations, and these are spread across 50 countries. This also includes 8 refugee camps in Africa and Lebanon. And you know, I was looking at the context for our discussions and looking at some statistics from UNHCR, and they estimate that there are 84 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. Over 26 million of these are refugees, and refugees as being defined as had to flee their homeland. and 68% of those are from just 5 countries. One of our youth partners is Southern New Hampshire University, which I believe is participating in this conference on another date. And they have a special program to provide scholarships for refugees who are living in the camps to help them earn a bachelor's degree online. They've connected with about 200 of their refugee students with the GMI program in the last year in these 8 camps. And these are students from Syria, the Congo, Rwanda, and Palestine, among other locations. So these students often migrate from troubled environments, as we know, and these are areas and existences that we can't even begin to comprehend. But through programs like what we're going to share today and what the other partners are going to share, I believe we can make a real difference for so many to help prepare them for their future career. So today we're going to hear from 2 GMI mentees that are on the panel today, and they have incredible stories about their challenges as refugees in Syria and Rwanda, and how a human connection through the GMI online mentorship has opened doors, and it's helped with their journey to leave the refugee camp. So just a little bit about GMI. We're a structured, short-term online mentorship with a business professional. That is how we operate. GMI creates job opportunities for mentees through the GMI network of mentors and soon through corporate partners as well. And there's no cost for the student, the college, or the organization. So a little more detail, our program is 14 one-hour sessions, and participants meet usually once a week by video conference. The program is designed to make it easy to be a great mentor without a huge time commitment. And it's built to give the students and mentees a consistently high quality experience with this personal human connection. Each of these 14 one-hour sessions covers a specific topic to help them prepare to enter the job world. For example, how to create a CV that uses the right keywords to attract job recruiters, or in interviewing techniques, how to use the STAR interview process to answer difficult interview questions. We show them how to build a business network that will bring job opportunities, and we give them the tools needed to actually make this happen. So along the way, they have the guidance of their mentor and hopefully a new friend for encouragement during the mentorship process and even after the mentorship. We try to make it as easy as possible for mentors to be really good at this. And so we provide the mentors a guide for each session that makes it easy to provide a high quality experience for the student. And people are often surprised that you don't have to be an expert to be a great mentor. What we do is we ask them just to follow the mentor guide and then to add their own personal experience. So all of this is academic without real results. And as I said, we're a young organization, but so far the results have been really encouraging. We created a career confidence index to measure progress, and we evaluate this confidence on their skill level for their upcoming job search. We do this before and after the mentorship, and then we check in regularly with the students when it's over. And like I said, it's a young organization, but the results have been really encouraging, and 73% of our students have a job within 6 months of graduating. So just to wrap up, you can learn more about the program at globalmentorship.org. And if you'd like to be a mentor, you can sign up there, and we'd be great to have you join us. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks so much, John. That was a fabulous introduction, and I think really setting out the scale of the problem and the approach that you're taking that's trying to build these human connections was really useful. And it's such a thrill to be able to introduce one of your first mentees, Jean de Dieu, Ndayikeza, co-founder of Act for a Better Future, but also on his LinkedIn profile, I love that he says he's a change maker with exceptional leadership. And I'm so pleased to see that you've got traineeships and other things happening and underway. So please tell us more about your experience, Jean de Dieu.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited to join John and the other incredible people here. A bit of of an introduction about myself. Originally from Burundi, but I've been living in Rwanda for 7 years as a refugee in Mahama refugee camp. I'm now speaking from Italy, Florence, at the European University Institute, where I'm doing a traineeship program here, which is also a continuous learning journey as I've embarked on this. Well, I'm a graduate from Southern New Hampshire University in a global education movement program through KEPRA program in Rwanda. So I've been, for a couple of years ago, doing my management with the concentration in logistics and operations and a bunch of soft skills. I'm also today speaking as a graduate or an alumni of GMI program and also a co-founder of Active for a Better Future. Well, to the point of human connections, mentorship and advising, I would like to talk about the GMI program. I've been into the program in April and May 2021. It was really a challenging time for me because I was running really, working on my academics and also having to look for a job. At that time, it was really a stressful time. I had a lovely mentor, Dave, who is following us today. I remember he used to tell me, well, you see, Jadot, usually use Jadot, just to make it simple. If you don't have a job, looking for a job is your job. And looking for a job or a job hunt, it's a game of numbers. The more applications you submit, the more rejections you get, the more interviews you get, and the more chances you get to get an offer. And really it worked. I will speak from the experience, it really worked. So, but I've been also able to leverage the GMI resources and experience to improve Act for a Better Future as an initiative I started with 10 of my colleagues. We are now 11 of us running Act for a Better Future. But why did we think about Act for a Better Future? We said, as refugees, for your information, we are all refugees, 11 of us, graduate from Southern New Hampshire University as well. So we said, we have the skills and we have at least some few resources we can use. How can we solve a problem? How can we use these little resources we have to be resourceful and make an impact? So 11 of us, we just went together a couple of meetings and then we made up ABF, Act for a Better Future. What we do is we are creating, or we are helping young refugees to bridge the gap between degrees and skills, because there is that gap. And the thing is, only 5% of refugees are in higher education. And then imagine what is happening with the 95% of the people who are not in higher education. GMI cannot access them because they are nowhere, if I would say. And any other programs, really hard for them to get noticed. But we say as ABF, we have to do something. Let's act on this. So we help the young people with 3 programs. So with the first one is a soft skill development. We just try to have some online sessions to help the young refugees get at least a clue of some of the 21st century soft skills. We have also a mentorship program, which is a program exclusively designed for refugees. And it has really a couple of objectives just to bring back the hope, because most of them lose the hope, because many people feel like, oh, we need higher education, but people they have lost their hope. But then how can we bring back that hope? And then connecting to the rest of the world, because many refugees, we are living in the camp. In a refugee camp, it's like a box, you're boxed somewhere and then you're not connected to the rest of the world. So we say, let's have a mentorship program. And then we try to connect those young people in the camp. Most of them high school graduates, so we can help them to connect to the rest of the world. Well, we have also just to wrap up, the third program we have is application support to help them apply to different available applications, whether jobs, scholarships, things like that, using our experiences and written resources we have. Well, I'm really excited to join, and I think we will continue the conversation and then share the experience with everyone here. Just to learn more about Act for a Better Future, you can access us actforabetterfuture.org and then learn more about ABF. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jean de Dieu, Jean de, I love that abbreviation. And I think it's really wonderful that essentially you're giving us our first insights into scaling, that really helping and persuading people and giving them insights and action at the mentoring level is that you've then taken that and expanded and scaled it yourself again. In a really interesting and useful and powerful way, including a mentoring element attached to it. And that 95% are not able to access that higher education is really telling. And the fact that you're taking that direction is going to be so great. And I think it also leads really well into the other mentee who's going to be speaking with us.
Britt, yes. I just wanted to say before you move on that Jado's mentor, GMI mentor, Dave, has joined it, and I noticed was smiling quite a bit. And so, Jado, it's great to see both of you back together after your mentorship.
Sure, really, yeah.
Thanks so much, John. And it's wonderful to have you here with us as well, Dave. I think it's a fantastic, obvious, strong relationship that has done great things. So moving on to our next mentee to further describe what's going on. And I think the link that comes through here is that Narjes Harba has also taken her work and worked out ways to be able to scale and increase the initiative as a student engagement specialist, and the ability to lead a student association connecting 20 student representatives from 9 sites in Africa and the Middle East. Shows another indication of how this kind of support can be accessed and scaled again in a new and different way. So please, Narjes, please tell us more.
Okay, I would like to test this sound. Is it clear?
This sound is perfect, and I'll give you a quick 5-minute warning in the chat, so keep your chat box open.
Amazing. Hello, everyone again. I'm honored to be here. And it's a pleasure to meet all of you and speak on behalf of millions of students all around the world as we share the same experience and the same struggles. This is Narjes, to those who are struggling reading my name. I'm here today to tell you a short story about Syrian child left her home during the Syrian war. When she was only 12 years old, she became a refugee, lived in a camp on the Syrian-Lebanese borders with no rights, even the identity. She continued her studies, but without recognition. Her graduation from the high school, being the top-ranking student among Syrian refugees in Lebanon, was nothing when no university in Lebanon accepted her application for the higher education program because she's a refugee. 1 year later, the SNHU-GEM was there, and this child, she joined the program, and when it was first launched in Lebanon, she directly applied and was accepted. Only 2 years later, she became the first healthcare management graduate with a BA degree in Lebanon. She had several internships in different majors with international entities. She became a good English speaker, a good communicator, and one of SNHU-GEM's team's members working as student engagement specialist, because she has the passion to help and support her peers. Her early graduation impressed SNHU's partners, so they sponsored her flight to Turkey to continue her studies. And I'm talking to you from Turkey now. I'm talking about the good part, or the more beautiful part. I was about to graduate when GEM connected me with the Global Mentorship Initiative GMI, where I could develop my business skills, master the job interview competencies, and practice my skills with an amazing mentor. During the program, I had my first job interview as a researcher in healthcare architecture. I remember my interview was on Thursday, and I was shocked when the recruiter, he was an architect at an American company. He told me, Narjes, impressed by your skills, and I'm honored to have you on my team. You can start with your position next week. That happened only during the first interview. At that time, I realized how much such programs are important to those who are taking university courses but cannot find a job opportunity. I realized how refugee students can compete in the international job market and get best positions. And I realized how much it's important to introduce these topics and these trainings to students in camps that really change their lives. While higher education is a right for all people, only 5%, as Jadu said, only 5% of refugees have access to this right. As I came from a refugee camp, I do believe that refugee students are a big union that can change the world if they just have the access to such opportunities. As millions are working for them, we do need to unite our efforts to improve our programs, to create new trainings, and to provide more opportunities to access to more people. Actually, I'm optimistic. I look forward to seeing the results of the summits and its impact on the lives of millions of students all around the world. I'd like to say thank you for being here, for those people, and for your efforts, and for every single step you take to support them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Narjes. I think the chat says it all. There are so many people that are so inspired by your story and the journey that you've come from, and your inspiration to be able to empower other refugees to be able to take these steps. I think that's a really powerful message for the GMI program that has selected and trained you guys and your mentors that have worked effectively with you to be able to help bring these inspiring stories forward and to be able to be role models for other refugees and also other inspiration for the kind of mentors that people could work with, mentees that people could work with going into the future. I'd like to now switch to the mentoring side of the equation of this other human connection. And if I could please introduce Lorraine Charles, who is the co-founder of NAMAL and a research associate at Cambridge. She is also a close friend of mine from my time in Abu Dhabi. Our kids play games together, and I was so thrilled when she asked me to come on board to work with this program that I experienced last year as a mentor. And I would love her to tell you more about how this was put together. Please, Lorraine.
Thank you, Britt. Honestly, I'm so pleased that you're able to moderate this session. As she says, we were great friends in Abu Dhabi, lots of evenings together, and I miss her dearly. And she has seen the growth of NAMAL. So many times I met Britt with our other friend, Megan, and I talked about the trials and the struggles I went through to build what I've built. And it's still growing and it's still tough, but I'm really pleased that Britt has seen the progress and she's here now to celebrate with me as I talk about the mentoring program. So NAMAL, what we train refugees in the skills to work remotely, working with partners such as MIT. So that's what we do. We train in the human skills for remote work. And our mentoring program is embedded in our larger program. So our program consists of an online asynchronous course, which we built with MIT, with virtual workshops, and then the mentoring program. So the learners see the content 3 times, through the online program, in the workshops, and then through the mentoring program, because we really believe that the skills which we're teaching, these human skills, are hard to teach and hard to learn. So our pedagogy includes these 3 interventions for learning these skills. And we really feel that this is important if individuals, refugees and host community and anyone are to be successful as workers. So we did as Britt said, and we did our program last year with MIT with 47 amazing mentors and 47 amazing mentees. And we really believe that we should prepare both sides for what they're about to encounter. For the mentees, how do you actually be a good mentee? How do you learn from what you're being taught? But also, more importantly, how do you make the most out of this relationship which you're given? For the mentors, we also believe it's a really big learning journey and a really wonderful program. And when we choose the people we want to mentor our talent, we sort of have two models. One, we sort of open it out globally to people to come, and then the other method is we sort of work with companies to have companies sponsor the program and sort of they work with our learners. But one thing we really believe is having the mentors work with refugees. It demystifies the refugee crisis. For a lot of people, this is their first time they have an interaction with a refugee. For them, a refugee is someone they see on television. There's a distance between them and that person. When people, regular people, you or I, who don't have a connection to this issue, work with a refugee, it humanizes them. It lessens the distance. So now the refugee that they see on TV is now their mentee. And I really believe that this is what we need to change, the often negative narrative that the media has portrayed the refugee crisis. So that's why I really strongly believe that the mentoring program doesn't only support the mentees, but it also helps the mentors. It helps us create a much better world. And I really believe that mentoring is important, just as Lana said at the beginning. Even if you're a skilled professional, if you're advanced in your career, or if you're a junior talent, mentoring is very important, because you get the opportunity to be guided by someone who has more experience, but not necessarily more experience, but just different experiences to you. Your mentor doesn't need to be someone older than you, but someone who has a different experience, who can guide you to show you something which you hadn't done before, which you haven't experienced before. And we really believe that for our learners, this mentorship program, the virtual mentorship program, is a way that they can have a relationship with someone that they wouldn't normally meet on a day-to-day basis. With our refugee learners, often in situations which are difficult, this provides them the opportunity to have a relationship with someone like they would for employment. And the goal of our program, working with MIT React and our other partners, is to get remote employment for these learners. So the mentor is also their gateway to the remote workspace, to the professional space, which often they will find difficult to access. So for us, this mentorship program has a really huge significance, not just for the learners, but also for us working in the organization. We get to meet amazing, amazing mentors like Britt, and also like Ilene, who's going to come and talk to you about her experience working with us. Thank you, everyone.
Not coming off. Thank you so much, Lorraine. That was a wonderful introduction to, I guess, the hard work that goes into being able to prepare and enable refugees to be able to access a very competitive global marketplace and to find opportunities in ways that are not there. But more importantly, to be able to influence people like the mentors themselves, to be able to create, to demystify, and to build human connection that goes in both directions. And I can certainly attest to that. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce one of my fellow mentees, Dr. I'm just going to scroll back up to her intro text that she very helpfully provided earlier. Ooh, is it still there? Yes. Whoop, there it is. Dr. Ilene Winokur is a professional development specialist supporting teachers globally, including refugee teachers. She's been active in learning and innovation for more than 25 years. And prior to retiring in 2019, she worked primarily with elementary and pre-college levels in terms of what she did. She hosts the Journey to Belonging podcast and blogs about her personal journey to belonging. So it's with great pleasure that we ask her to now tell us her story as a mentor and her lessons for us in this important understanding of human connections and the ability to scale and maintain human contact. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Britt. Thank you for that introduction, and it's so nice to meet a fellow mentor. So my experience with mentoring goes way, way back. As a teacher and administrator, I've done mentoring in schools for a very long time. But my journey with refugees and mentoring refugees is only fairly recent. So I connected with Lorraine online, which is a lot of the ways that living in Kuwait, I connect with people. And I had this opportunity through Lorraine to be part of this mentoring program with the MIT React program that they were doing. And she connected me with Ahmed, who was recently moved to New York City and was working there and had recently moved his family. But the part of the process that I really, I'll take you sort of through the beginning and all the way through. So the NAML program for mentors was really well organized. It had a program for the mentors and the mentees, a guide for us to go through, which was very helpful. It wasn't something that we had to follow exactly, but it was very helpful, and there were tips about communicating with our mentee. There were different kinds of suggestions for things. And we started off with Lorraine meeting us and talking us through what NAML was all about and the goals of the program. And so that was really, really helpful to sort of set the stage, because the mentorship is a big responsibility, but it's also a matter of really listening and hearing what the mentee needs. And sometimes that fits what we think it's going to be, and sometimes it's slightly different. And so that was really, excuse me, that was really helpful. And excuse me. One part of the guide included SMART goals. And so that was something that was really helpful, because Ahmed was already working. He had a job. He was working remotely, and he was doing the MIT React program. The work he was doing was in financial analysis, but what he really wanted to get into and was majoring in, let's say, through the MIT React program was the statistical analysis. And so after talking with him several times, I found out that what he really wanted was a career path change. And he needed guidance on how to make that change. He had a great relationship with his current employer, but he really needed to be able to figure out how to make the process work as he worked through his MIT React capstone, which he actually chose to do to make his work more efficient for his current employer at the time. And it was a music company, and there were a lot of inefficiencies that he saw in the way that they were doing things. And so his capstone directly related to that, but it wasn't exactly what he wanted to do in the future. So I learned so much from him as a mentee because of the choices that he was making. The interesting part of taking him through the whole SMART goals process was that he had recently, when I started mentoring him, brought his wife and 2 daughters from Turkey. And his wife was learning English, in order to be able to eventually, hopefully, find a job also. And his daughters were in school, getting used to school and learning English also. And he had that kind of relationship with his family that it was very important for them to be a part of whatever process he was going through. He didn't want to make any decisions without having them involved or thinking about the necessary, the necessity of things that they wanted also, and for them to be happy. They needed to be a happy unit. So it was really interesting that the mentorship not only affected the mentee, but also his family, which was really amazing. And so at one point, as we were going through the SMART goals, he said, he came on during one of our meetings and he said that he had shared his SMART goals to get his wife's sort of aspect or perspective. And she had decided that she wanted to use the SMART goals also in order to be able to determine what she wanted to do. So, and so, yeah, so it was just an amazing relationship, an amazing partnership. I learned so much from my mentee, Ahmed, and he was able to eventually move into a job, just started March 1st, in statistical analysis, which is what he wanted to do. And so thank you so much for inviting me for the mentorship, Lorraine, and for inviting me to share my experience today.
Thank you so much, Ilene. That was a really wonderful example of the personal relationship that is formed and the impact that this has beyond the specific relationship that you've been engaged in, and some of the tools that are very effective in supporting it. And I would concur that there were some very, very good tools that supported my mentoring relationship as well. And it was a fantastic toolkit to have reference to and to use going through the way that we went through it. So we now come to the point of enabling us a bit of a moderated discussion across our panel members. If you have questions, please pop them in the chat and we'll try and draw on those questions and get people to interact with our panel members. So put your thinking caps on. But to kick us off and to get us going, we had a couple of examples across what we've seen so far of essentially, we talk about scale. We have such limited resources and such a huge problem. I think the statistics that were very helpfully outlaid at the beginning for us was there were 26 million refugees, with 68% of them coming from 5 countries. You know, mentoring programs at a one-on-one level, you would think would be how is this going to address this problem at any degree of scale? So the real question that I wanted to get your thoughts on is how can we grow and reach and the impact of this mentor program, which has obviously had such a good, strong impact on the mentees and also benefited the mentors. How can we scale the impact while maintaining the quality and impact of these human-centered relationships? Who'd like to have a go at that question first?
Well, I can start off to get the ball rolling. When we think about a mentorship program or a human connection with refugees, with displaced youth and workers, it's about scalability, and a consistent experience, I think, is so important. You need to have a program that you can make sure that every mentee in the program gets a similar quality experience. And so we believe at GMI that having a structured program is vital to success. And I'll just share, when I was at Microsoft, I was both an internal mentee and an internal mentor. And I will tell you that during that time, I think I did a terrible job at being both. And one of the issues was that we didn't know what we were going to talk about in our mentorship. We got together, we said, okay, what do you want to talk about today? And that was a very unproductive time for everyone involved. So that's why we like structure. Mentors, and Ilene, for example, your time is valuable. You want to make sure that you know exactly what you're going to talk about with your mentee. And when you have structure and things are laid out for both participants, then you can start to scale up into the hundreds and the thousands in a much easier way.
Yes, I'll add to that. Yes, I agree, structure is important. But one thing we always do is we say to our mentees that they must lead the relationship. we have the guide, but also they have to tell their mentors what they want to talk about. So we feel by training the mentees to take ownership of the relationship, there never is this case of what are we talking about. There's the guide, yes, but also I think the mentee really needs to take ownership of the relationship and really be self-aware and recognizing that this isn't easy for everyone. This is why the guide is there, if that isn't possible. But we really want to give the mentees the space to be able to say what they need.
And I think that's such an important point, Lorraine, because the only part of the guide that I ended up using was that SMART goals. And it was so helpful it was there, because listening to Ahmed and what he needed, what the mentee needed, was something slightly different. He wanted help with a cover letter and to sort of be guided in other ways. So yes, it's great that there's the structure there, but it's also that we were aware on both sides of what the goals of the relationship, mentor-mentee relationship was. And I wonder if Britt maybe could add to it, since she was a mentor also.
Absolutely. I would say that I found the whole of the structure that was put in place between NAMAL and MIT React was really important to be able to have the online platform, the ability to connect, the training programs that happened ahead of time, the structured guides with the ideas for what the session should be broken down into. So you could let the mentees guide, but you had at least a very formal structure to be able to start the conversations and to agree what next week would happen, what the kind of tasks that could be undertaken. I used it a lot in my discussions with Nefiso. She, like the other wonderful mentees that are on this conversation, really wanted to be in social activism, and she wanted to find a way to be able to take, and benefit her Somali community in South Africa. And so finding ways for her to be able to access those resources, to do the things that she wanted to do, she very quickly realized that no one was going to pay her to do this work. She was going to have to find a way to fund her own ability to do it, how much money she wanted to save through those SMART goals to then be able to take forward social activism within her community and do things. So structuring a plan, thinking about a way to do it, the kinds of communication. She then wanted help in writing. So there were resources beyond what was in that guide, but the structure that was there was incredibly important. And I think the 14 topics that were mentioned in the GMI one would also be an excellent curriculum really to run through. And I think they're really essential tools to enable a good scaling of these processes, and that key comment that was put forward about having consistency of experience for the people being involved. You want a quality product, and so structure around that would be really, really important. I didn't know if any of our mentees wanted to add to your thoughts, because you've both taken and scaled, from my perspective, this input that's been given to you. What do you think about scaling? Do you think that there are good ways to do this through mentoring?
Well, if I can go with my my thinking about on how we can keep the quality of the relationship or the mentorship, but also make sure we scale the program. I think many students all around the world needed this kind of mentorship, but I think we have really, really few mentors who can help with that. My thinking is around on how can we, or how can a program like GMI or NAMAL partner with a local, it might be an institution, might be a university, might be a local NGO working around the issue, and then see how GMI can recruit mentors, but also the local partner can help to recruit many mentors to help address the issue. That's what I think as a way of scaling the program while also keeping the quality.
I think that's a fabulous insight, Jean de Dieu, to be able to really focus on finding people that you feel are like you, that make that advice and the trust that you're able to place in the direction that you're going, as well as to be able to scale it, is incredibly important. Fantastic idea. Did we have any other comments on this point before we go to the next question? All right. So Narjes, I'm going to start this question with you then, because you are very close to where this action is happening today. What do you see as is needed in the ecosystem today? You know, how do we face the Ukraine crisis and the growing refugee situation globally? What is needed in our mentoring and our ecosystem to make this work?
I'm sorry. Actually, like most of students in this case are maybe feel frustrated because of this situation. So the first thing that we need to make sure about is to have access to those people in this terrible situation, and the access is so important because, like, you see, people for example in the camps maybe doesn't have access to these opportunities. So it's so important to make sure that we all collaborate with each other, all the organizations who have the same mission or the same goal, to collaborate with each other and to target those people and to go directly to them and to provide our help to them because they do need it, especially that they were studying, they were working, they were doing everything and they were on good track, they were achieving, and suddenly they lost everything.
I think that's fantastic insight. So access to the people who are in these situations and capacity to collaborate to better target and get resources to where it's needed. Is there any other panel member who wanted to have a go at this question? I see some great contributions coming through the chat in relation to scaling. I just wanted to see if there were any other burning thoughts that people had on what do we see as the immediate needs in the ecosystem today? What's needed today to make mentoring work?
Maybe I'll have a go at this. So often in this space, we operate in silos. I often say this, we really need to collaborate, and we really need to understand that we aren't competing, we need to work together. And I feel that if we manage to share that message and we get people to really understand and really truly collaborate, then this will try to address a lot of issues. Because often as organizations, we compete for funding, we compete for attention, we compete for everything rather than actually work together. And when we actually talk to each other, we see that our programs actually complement each other. So I really believe that collaboration and conversation is important to really address a lot of the issues that we're seeing.
I would just completely echo that, Lorraine.